I'm Teria Shantall, and what I want to share with you today is really the very passion of my own life as a logotherapist and student of Dr. Viktor Frankl. And I'm going to address a question that is so fundamental to every one of us, namely, what is man? And there is this beautiful rendition in Psalm 8 that says, "What is man that you think of him? The Son of Man that you consider him." And it's very, very exciting to see what a Rabbi Hirsch, an 18th century Jewish sage, had to say about this. I'll just read you how he translates this particular verse. He said, "What then is man? Degenerate and violent, that you remember him? And what is the son of pure mankind, that you have installed him in his earthly office?" And here is the very secret of who we are, because we should really translate that verse as, and now I'm talking pure logotherapy, what is man that you can hold him accountable for the kind of life he is living? And it brings us immediately to the three basic tenets of logotherapy, that all of us are continually confronted with choice. What are we going to do with our lives? How do we react to circumstances? How do we prove what kind of person we are? And in this, we have to immediately say that we all agree that we have freedom of choice, what Frankl calls a freedom of will. In other words, we are not patterned by instinct to mechanically respond to the demands that the environment makes upon us. We have a unique capacity that makes us human. And what is that capacity? It's the fact that we can think. In other words, whatever we are confronted with, whether we question who we are or what the meaning of our lives is, we are always considering in a reflective way. We evaluate things. What is this? How do I make sense of this? How should I think about this? You see, thought is involved. And this is this capacity that makes us human. An animal can simply do what it is programmed to do. We have every facet of animal behavior in us on a physical level, even on a crude psychological level, but we have much more than that. This is really what was meant by the creation story when it is recorded that God breathed into man. And he became what? A living soul. In other words, what is this? What is a living soul? It is that I can think about what is happening to me physically, what I am feeling emotionally, what impressions are made upon me by the environment, and to what purpose? To the purpose of making up my own mind about it. To come to some kind of sense. What is it about? How can I understand this? How can I believe this? How can I commit myself then eventually to what I feel is the truth of the matter? And if we say that we have a freedom of will, that we can choose, then another thing immediately comes into focus. And that is that we can be held accountable for the choices we make. That, we don't have to follow the crowd, or we don't have to do what somebody else tells us to do. I mean, what we do, we have to give an account for. In other words, I followed the crowd, or I did what somebody else did, or what I was told to do. But even that holds you accountable. And to come to the position that is expounded in this psalm, because here the freedom of choice is fully elaborated. On the one hand, you can go totally off course. You can use your freedom in an abusive, hurtful, life-resistant way, or you can use it in a way that puts you in the place where you were meant to be. Because, further on in the psalm, it says, you have made him a little lower than the angels, and you've crowned him with honor and dignity. My word, my word. That's the station that we are supposed to have. In other words, reaching out towards something bigger than ourselves, a little lower than the angels. In other words, there's a gap between us and the transcendent, or something beyond ourselves. And here Viktor Frankl made so clear that we are only fully ourselves when we are involved with a cause greater than ourselves, when we in fact forget about ourselves. And we will see as we expound this, that if we become self-absorbed, if we are cut off from really seeking the meaning and purpose of our lives and coming to a committed stance about it and realizing what we feel is our mission in life. In other words, to reach out beyond ourselves, to be giving something to the world, to making our mark, to being a person of worth and dignity. That is what we are actually created to be. And then we shall see that then and here comes another very fundamental tenet of logotherapy that is something controversial, but yet very true. When Frankl says that our primary motivation is a will to meaning. In other words, all of us do want to make sense of our lives. We have to make sense of our lives because, if you were just left in your freedom to a multitude of impressions and opinions and beliefs, and you'll be in chaos. Freedom would be totally arbitrary. You would never know the truth. This man says that man says that. What am I to believe? You'd be dangling. So it is so clear that for us to really be in a place where we should be and where we will feel ourselves freely, joyously, committedly, and, with a sense of dignity and purpose, is that we have to find meaning. Now, we're going to explore how we find meaning, because here comes another question. If our fundamental will is to find meaning in our lives, if there is no meaning to be found, if it is just left open to everybody to say anything about how we should live and why we should live, then we won't have what Frankl calls the tension of direction. We need to find meaning in life. In other words, meaning should be there for us to be able to find it. Now, whether you're religious or not, it's not the point here. This is the fundamental fact of human existence, and this is human science. It's a true fact that all of us are looking for something. And that we, like Frankl says, that the heart remains restless until it has found and realized meaning. And we can see what restlessness can do. It can drive you to drink. It can drive you to the indulgence of this, that, or the other, to drugs, or even to violence as you protest the fact that you feel so vulnerable, so fearsome, so inferior, you don't know who you are, and now you've got to set yourself out, like it says there, the violent and degenerate man. The degenerate man, what is degenerate? And that it's decadence. It's actually falling from the station that you were meant to have. And then it is what Frankl calls a subhuman level of existence. And what does subhuman mean? It means that we become not only animalistic, but that we go wild with our passions, with our needs, with our wants. And it's got no structure. It falls around all over the place. And we don't really get an answer. So I want to end with this very fundamental truths that we are going to explore more deeply, and which is that Frankl says man is spirit. And what does that mean? To be spiritual is to have a freedom of will that is directed towards finding meaning in life, and then finding that meaning, realizing and actualizing it, so that we can eventually say, this is me. Here I am. Send me. Let me do what I have been sent